Today is the 11th of February, and each year that marks the UN's International Day of Women and Children in Science. When we think of science, we tend to imagine people in lab coats using test tubes. QTFN is a perfect example of some quality women who are doing amazing things every day to make a difference, not in the lab, but in nature. Ecologists study the interaction of living things and their environment now and in the future. In our current societal and environmental climate, ecology is a deeply important and rewarding profession. For the women in our ecology team, the rewards speak for themselves.
Science, I suppose, is about learning, and I love learning, and that's what science is. It's about figuring out what your question is and then finding the way of figuring out a way that you can answer that question and going to collect the data and then analysing that data and finding the answer to your question. I think that process is just so exciting.
I like doing that fine balance of conservation work but also educating people about it, because ultimately we can do as much work as an organisation, as scientists, government, whoever, but community and people are the ones that drive the change.
I love knowing or understanding why something is doing what it's doing, and there has to be an explanation for it. So if something's not going well, you know, finding out what that is, and through science I feel like we can sort of pinpoint those answers.
I grew up on a farm, like in a rural area, so I was always outside a lot, but I never ever saw myself being an ecologist. I don't think I even knew it existed. I saw myself being a vet. You know, when people ask that question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because I'm going to be a vet.
When I was a kid, I'd always wanted to be a vet, but then realised I couldn't actually put animals down because it would make me sad. And then started to lean towards, I guess, wanting to be a zookeeper, like a lot of kids, I think, because it's wildlife and you get to interact with it on a daily basis.
I think there's always been something there. When I was young, I just loved exploring, and, you know, any opportunity that we sort of got to be in bushland or rainforest, I just really felt this strong connection to it. And I think there's always been a part of me that thought that if it wasn't to be in my career, that it would be a big part of my life.
I was actually was running a session with a bunch of farmers over in Vietnam, and they had asked me, the organisation I was working with had asked me to do a presentation regarding conservation, very vague, and monitoring, and talking to them about some of the work that we did. And one of the guys I was working, who's my director of the company, he's like, oh, can you talk to me about the turtle work you've just come back from doing? I was like, yeah. Kind of talked through it with them. And I knew that the way that we do stuff doesn't match because they don't have money and they don't have resources, and these are very, conservation there is a bit different to how we do it here. But just the way that, they don't even have access to binoculars. And having that understanding of going, actually, this is really hard, like not just this is hard, like it was sitting there going, I need to strip this back even more than what I'm actually doing, and realising that there are different ways to do things, and we've got to think a lot more broader, because even places in Australia, we just expect that people have access to equipment and resources, and for me that was kind of my own internal aha moment.
There's one piece of work that I'm really, really proud of in my career so far, and myself and one of my colleagues, Jen Silcock, wrote the action plan for Australia's most imperilled plants in 2021. So that's a compilation of 50 of Australia's most threatened flora, and that body of work comes off the back of hundreds of interviews with botanists across Australia, land managers across Australia, and people doing on-ground conservation work to sort of better understand what the specific actions are that we need to protect these plants.
Look, I think You know, getting this role with Queensland Trust for Nature has just been a pinnacle, and yeah, something that I always dreamed about.
I love the balance between desk work and being in the field and being able to learn by being outside and by doing. And I also really love the diversity of the work that I get to do. So it's not just one thing on repeat every day. It's always something new, there's always a new problem to solve.
The ability to work across multiple projects, so it means I get to just at least see a different landscape, learn from some different people. The organisation that QTFN is, with such a broad portfolio and the way that they deliver, and hoping that they engage with community partners at a broad spectrum of levels, to me is the thing that excites me. You know, I just worked with Mackay District Turtle Watch, so working with volunteer groups, like I really love that, and then kind of building that partnership up and having an understanding about what we both bring to the party and how we're both working towards the same goals and objectives.
I love dealing with a range of people, and I love solving problems, and you know, working with contractors and council and the landowners, and it's just such a wonderful thing to work with them and be all communicating really well and making things happen. You know, as you can see here, it's just been a wonderful partnership with Scenic Rim Council and the contractor, The World As I Am, and Queensland Trust for Nature, as well as the Department of Environment and Science. And as you can see, like this planting was from last year, and it's just so successful.